Well, we're back. My name is Game Master Gillis,
I'm Game Master Mikey.
And I'm Player Tyler.
and this is When Are We Playing?
Storyteller Chris here, holding it down as well.
So, Chris, we had some chats there about LARP. I wanted to ask you, what are a couple of or at least one of your worst and best experiences of all the times you've played, or even story told? Just like best experience ever at LARP, worst experience ever at LARP.
Man, we're gonna have a whole episode about best experiences at LARP. I've been doing this for 19 years. My parents were like, "Oh, it's just gonna be a phase." Like, no, I'm trying to make like sort of a living off of this. Like, if it's a phase, it's gonna be one that lasts until I die.
Right? Yeah.
Nice. Those are really the best ones.
No, really, yeah. Because if you do something you love, are you really working? Like, not really. But I would say that probably the one experience that I could point to in my early, it was two actually, and one of them super quick. That really was like, dude, LARPing is just amazing. One, I was back at Phoenix way back in the day. It was like my second or third game ever, like ultra noob. I had no idea what was going on. And apparently a bunch of high-level players were like screwing around with all these undead lords, and they thought they were like, super badass and could do whatever they wanted. And I'm over in Monster Town with 5 other noobs, like really like within like a handful of our first months of our first game. And this is old group camp 2 where Monster Town was, like that big old like set of open fields by the oak trees just behind or just in front of group camp 1 now. That's where the staff and cabins in the Monster Town was. So we're down there, we're just like trying to get like normal monster stuff, and then all of a sudden 2 plot guys come down and they're like in full costume and makeup. One of them's the vampire master and one of them's the wraith master, and they're like, look, we're gonna take all of you, 3 of you are gonna be greater vampire lords, 3 of you are gonna be greater wraith lords. And we're like, we don't even understand the words that you said to us just now. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And they were like, look, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. So we, march out, and they've been at group camp 1. So, like, how they have that, the back trail, and they've got that little cut that goes to the field.
Yeah.
So we like kind of stage right there. And these 2 plot guys turn around and they give us our stats, and we're just like, I don't know half of what you said. Like, I don't know, like, what that does even. And they're like, fine, whatever. Like, here's the couple of things that you need to know. And it was like the base combat stats, like strength, toughness.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they looked us square in the face and were like, look, the town undead slayers have been fucking with all the undead lords, and they think they do whatever they want. So our goal is to res as many players as possible in as quick a time as possible.
Oh shit! Jesus.
And we're just like, what? But then also you have to understand that whenever this battle initiated with the 8 of us versus the town, there was like literally over 100 players. Like Phoenix at its height was like 120 players, like plus staff. Like it was insane. So we got into one of the most epic fights I've ever been in LARP ever. I had no idea what I was doing. And after I died, they were still fighting for like another 20 minutes.
No shit.
And even despite the fact that I had no idea what was going on, the fact that I was in the middle of it and involved with it and seeing just this mass chaos and all these people like real life stuff. Some people like breaking down and fleeing. Some people organizing defenses. Like real world stories that you've heard from like war and like read in books and it was happening right in front of me. And I just knew that I was like, I gotta be part of this all the time. And then another one is specifically the moment that I realized that the storytelling of LARP was just so powerful. Like I'm a little scrub kid playing Dreamscape. Just a little human because I didn't care about like doing all the racial stuff. I just wanted to like get in a game, not have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And I was role playing with some NPC, and at this game, it was Dreamscape. There was this race called the Fae, and they just kind of popped into existence and were super like weird and whimsical. And our Zana are kind of based off of them. Yeah. So just imagine like magical kindred, or not kindred. Kender from the Dragonlance games.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So. Super annoying. Like the head of plot who created them hated them, kind of like in the same way that I hate Zana. It's just like, damn it, I should have never done that. I love them, but fuck.
Yeah.
The decisions you live to regret.
Yeah, and so like we're just role playing, right? Like just I'm talking to this character about some things, and just in the course of the conversation, he's like, yeah, like Zana or not Zana, freaking Fae, whenever they pop into existence, like, do you know where they came from? Like, what it is, like, the soul that embodies. I was like, no, like, what is it? And it's like they're basically reincarnations of important or powerful wills from the past. And, like, it was such an innocuous story point, but to my, like, being enthralled and immersed in the game world, that revelation hit me like I was standing under Niagara Falls and it hadn't been like going to like, I just got hit with the whole thing, and just, it was like this out of body experience where I stepped back and I saw this entire universe that was this one game that had all the mysteries and all the depth of the real world in it. And I just learned a super high level secret of the way the universe worked. And I've been in it forever.
Yeah. That'll kind of sell you.
Yeah.
Was there ever a bad experience that kind of made you think, oh shit, LARP or this game or something like that?
It's more like this game, and most of it has to do with less than stellar management of the game at various levels.
Yeah.
But I have a really interesting talent that I can pretty much make my own fun at any game that I go to, even if I'm literally by myself.
Sure.
Because I'm a LARPer. You know?
Yeah.
But I've never had an experience at LARP from either like the staff or the other players. Even when I could tell you some stories of like, you know, particular staff members doing stuff that just completely inappropriate as far as the way you like treat players, interact with them and stuff. But even in like the depths of all of that stuff that would make all sorts of people quit today.
Yeah.
I was just so in love with the hobby of LARP and the storytelling and all this stuff that I just ground through all that stuff. And
once it gets you, it kind of has you.
Oh yeah.
That's
You'll find a way to make it happen.
But since we are kind of talking about that, I would say that especially now that I've been running LARPs for a lot more time consistently that I've been playing over the last 7 or 8 years, I would say that what made less than enjoyable experiences to me is whenever the games I would go to, their staff and their ownership and whatever would make it a point to come talk to me out of play about how my game experience was while we're in the middle of the game. Like these various things, which I totally understand, I kind of appreciate, but my complaints are pretty much always the same. And it's like, hey, like y'all could be doing more with the number of staff you have, or things like this, or you as the owner doing the staff capacity, instead of coming to me out of play right now to ask how I'm doing, what I like, what I don't like. Like, how about you come out as a thing and role play with me right now? Like, like that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm paying you for. And like that was pretty much always my things. It was like there's not enough going on, or like there's too much out of play, or like this. Like I don't need you to come and ask me how I'm doing in the middle of the game unless you think I'm distressed. Like, which then I would totally super appreciate, but just to come and kind of be like, oh, hey, how you feeling? Like, how's the game going? Like, blah blah blah. What could we do better? Or like, not talking to me in real life right now while I'm trying to play this game would definitely help. But those are more just like pet peeves than like really bad experiences. And I guess part of that might be because I'm just crazy and I'm a LARPer and I like, just like will slog through any of the things for the hobby that I just love so dearly.
Right.
But it also could just be that I have had a lot of good luck and I've just been in good communities surrounded by good people, and I've never really had, those experiences that were just so distasteful to me that it would like maybe want to like not play the game, not want to like. I mean, there's been times where I've stopped for a little while, but I've never stopped.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, I've always gone back to games. Like, always.
Now, you've got the advantage of actually running your own game currently, and building a lot of the story up,
which I love, but I miss playing so much.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Take an iteration off, man.
We'll talk about that.
Come be a clown. Come be a clown.
Come be a clown.
Come be a clown.
I approve the clowns, by the way. Anybody who's like, no, there's not going to be clown. No,
This match was endorsed by Chris Chauvin.
I would play it, absolutely.
Yeah, he's also
you can blame me.
And he approved dwarfs.
I did.
But
that was my
It's his
idea.
fault. It's not mine.
But
Sorry, no, continue.
But yeah, like you've got the advantage when you're actually making the stories and looking at it, from the storyteller point of view. Have there been any particular examples of things that just the effect that you've had on players that brought you a whole lot of joy, or things that happened that worked out a lot better, or were much more immersive than you were expecting?
Oh man, there's a few. I'll give you a really good example of something relatively recent. So I was like October or November, and they had that like storm come through, right? Like it was a really low turnout event because like it was super bad weather.
Destroyed Bork's tent.
But it was pretty much only Friday night and Saturday morning. Like the rest of the event was glorious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I was out as Cristobal, and I was getting like really emotional about like something that was going on. Like I found out all this bad information, and I found out the PCs were kind of like jerking me around, and like the person who was my assistant had actually told them to like lead me astray and stuff. So I'm getting really like upset. And as I'm doing this, and I found out that like my first retainer person or whatever had been killed because she was convinced that she was a heroic soul by the other heroic souls, but she wasn't. She was just an NPC, which also was funny because on an iPlay level, she came into play on the newbie mod So the other like new characters were like, oh yeah, this is just another like a new player. No, it was Megan. She was on staff. But so her character was like, oh yeah, like I'll come back, like I'm with all you guys. Nope. And so my character found out that like his favorite retainer, was dead, and I had this like
Dead.
and like I grabbed the chair in front of me, and then it was like crack, crack, boom, and then the entire site lost power for like 10 seconds. Or something like that, and then it came back up. Yeah, and I had a couple people like come and be like, "Did you play?" I was like, "No, absolutely not." And if I could do something like that, I don't think I ever would. Like,
Right,
hey, I'm
the
going to start
safety
shutting off your
hazard,
power, just like on and off because I need it for dramatic effect. Like, oh man. And then there's just been other times where, and it's really you'll find this. It's more like the innocuous like fun things more than it's like the more serious things where more people will be more deeply immersed. It's like your like water method, like your rain dance thing.
It was so fun. That was the same month. That was after the storm.
Yeah, it's like clearly, obviously, the things you're saying are a dead giveaway. That this is a terrible idea. Whatever you're doing is bad.
I'm just thinking, why would anyone ever fucking do this ever? And
Yeah,
like,
because it's goofy. It's goofy and
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Like,
Nothing this fun with this many laughs can turn out badly.
Right.
They will.
And think about it. Like, they're like, oh man, we're just all like having fun, like doing this rain dance, and like, but from your standpoint, like, I mean, how immersive was that? You had how many people helping you do your rain dance? Like,
everyone was like saying right now, when you see a group of people frolicking, and 4 or 5 of them are NPCs, and you're at Mordavia, that never ends well.
Oh, I have
It's not like a.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just thought of the answer to the other part of your question. It was like something that like when I see it, like it really gives me joy, but it's also part of the immersion thing. It's not this specifically, but it gives the best example of it overall. But especially from last iteration, there's like several times where I've been involved as something as an NPC where the result of what went down was PCs crying, and not just their characters crying, their players crying.
Yeah.
Now I know it sounds like sick and twisted or whatever, but from like an entertainer, like storyteller standpoint, like that's how you really know that the story you just ran or the things they just experienced really hit home, and they're really real the way that we try and do it. And also in some of these cases, like I've gotten choked up. Like, I mean, you have to talk to Addie about freaking whenever her previous character's sword got reforged and like named by both of her brothers, and like that whole scene. As I was unfolding that for her, I had her tell me about her brothers. So in play, like she was telling me about these memories of her brothers, and I took that and like did this cool like description of like first elf crafting stuff, using the story she told me and taking the emotions and crafting them into this weapon, and I renamed it and I gave it back to her, and I was like choked up by the end of it because it was like that intense, and those sorts of things really, it's like we're really doing something that like really is impacting people, which from a storyteller entertainment standpoint, that's really the point.
That's really what you're going
it's like
for.
I make some art. Okay, cool. Why do I do like when you look at that, I want you to feel something.
Yeah, that's why we do it. That's why we play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've been on the other side of that where like some really dramatic, epic in-play stuff has happened, and I've been crushed. Like my character was crushed, and it affected me in real life. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I cannot believe that my character actions caused this thing to happen that is just terrible and tragic.
Right.
Like it's just wow. And those are signs of like really good games, really good stories. And I really like trying to bring that to people when I can tell that they are reacting in the ways that the stories that I'm telling them are supposed to be eliciting. That's how you know you're doing a good job.
It's a true sign of like real immersion too. I mean, like you're that into the scenario that's happening. It's
so real quick. So you were talking about immersion. This is important from a LARP craft kind of standpoint. Is that there's 2 different factors when it comes to immersion, and really it's immersion versus illusion.
Right.
So immersion is how you feel. Like, are you into the world? Are you into the character? Like, can you dissolve your out of world or your real world personality to not register when I say Gillis, which is a really, really unique name. Like, you're like, who the hell is Gillis? I'm Rogan. Like, that kind of thing. Yeah. But that is helped by what in the West we actually usually say immersion is illusion, and that's the full makeup, full costumes, cabin decorations, like the extra mile to make it seem like you're in the world that's being presented.
Yeah.
So illusion helps with immersion.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, you don't need any illusion to be super immersed. And
Right.
you get that at tabletop.
Yeah.
Like how like, you know, everybody's into their characters. Like, I mean, dude, I've heard all your like stories, like when your tabletop buddy's character like died in an unexpected or tragic way, and y'all are just like, like we gotta take a break. Like,
No illusion at all.
shit,
Complete
like-
immersion, though.
yeah, exactly,
absolutely.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
but you can have the flip side where you have 100% illusion, but no immersion, and like it's all about the end result of how the player feels about being immersed themselves in the world.
And I mean, a lot of that is really on the player. You've got to, once you go to one of these games, you've kind of got to get yourself immersed, find a place where you're comfortable, or at least find the voice of your character, and find what they're going to be doing. Once you can really fall into that, you can roll with that character. I know when I got there, I'm like, okay, right now, Kevin is just this guy on this piece of paper with a bunch of tags. And throughout the first actual gather that I went to, by the end of it, I was like, now I'm speaking in his voice. Now I'm acting in his voice. Now I'm actually immersed into this character. And it was...
Right, like you know who that character is now.
And, I mean, everyone else was immersed into what they were doing, but it was me letting go and actually falling into the game. Yeah. And, I mean, I could put a lot on the storytellers, be like, okay, you guys got to get me into it. No, actually,
I mean,
the players got to let go.
So we have a lot of responsibility to bear when it comes to that, but there is a point. Because, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with some people they either just don't get LARP or they just don't like it enough. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like like we talked before. It's
not
thing.
for
Like,
everyone.
It's
Yeah.
a thing that you're into or you're not. And if you're into it, you're really into it. Because like there's been times where we have brought out super simple, super innocent, like straight up like intro level game mods where there's really no danger to you at all. It's like the newbie mod plus where we're gonna run you through mechanics and there's gonna be some role play, a little bit of danger, but you as a character are really not in that much danger.
Yeah.
Like I hate the term plot save, but like I in particular have always felt like it's a game's responsibility to, as much as they can, without nannying them, kind of look out for new players, especially if they never LARPed before. Because like, man, if you never LARPed before and like you come up against me, like, oh, you want to be a social, like noble roleplay character, and we were like, I will just run circles around you unless you're just naturally talented at that particular type of roleplay. Because I've been doing it in LARP for 19 years. And in Vampire the Masquerade, like most of my characters have been that type of character almost exclusively. Like, so if you want to sit here and try and out roleplay me and we're just talking, like, good luck. But we have brought these types of low level stories to people and they just don't want to do anything for whatever reason. Like, you know, most of the time it's because they just don't get or don't really like LARP and they just haven't quite realized that yet. Because there's been a few people that we've like brought stuff to like when they're early like game and they were kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like, but then once they get, you know, like a handful of games under their belts, like they start making friends with players, especially like older players, and like they start feeling that they're actually playing in a living story and can make decisions and make things happen. Then they kind of like get into it. But there really is only so much that staff can do. You know,
you can lead a horse to water,
right?
but
No,
you can't
exactly.
make it drink.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I can give you a million storylines. I can give you your own personal storyline. I come and role play with you as your father, brother, uncle, cousin, whatever, sister, even. And if you, as a player, do not bite on the things, at that point, that is really on you, and there's not anything else we could do to really force the story on you.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because like sometimes those people kind of fall into the negative, like, oh, I'm not getting any story, like, but like, bro, man, like we've brought 5 or 6 storylines like directly to you, and because we talk about these things, like, and be like, hey, what groups haven't gotten enough attention, like what people haven't gotten like, or what groups gotten too much attention this game, we need to cut them off, like, you know, start going targeting people that we know for a fact have not had as much story as other people. But it's like you said, like you can only lead them so far.
And some of us don't go on mods, not because, you know, we somehow think it's better to get items that we craft ourselves or because we think it's virtuous to stay in town. It can just be because it's really hot and
Oh, yeah,
I
lots
just
of-
don't
lots
want
of
to go. You know,
I'm a hardcore LARPer. I was running around in the middle of summer, 12 months a year, wearing my full black, any exposed skin was black.
Yeah.
Completely. I was wearing black leather. Like, it didn't matter. If I got really hot, I would just like start peeling layers off and whatnot. But I did that because I was super into the character, everything they were about. I was super into the role play, so I suffered the makeup.
I tell you, man, I want to be Bork when I grow up. That's my goal as a player. As a player, right there. I'm like, that's how do you do that? That's amazing. That's amazing.
So for those who are listening to this, who
I'm
are
actually jealous that he's
unfamiliar,
able to pull that off. Like, I'm just, yeah.
Bork is a character who's basically nothing but a universal skill character, no combat whatsoever, and he runs basically a little social information empire from his tent where he uses the bardic / magical
Just
entertainer
sits
set
at a
abilities.
camp table and cooks for people all
cooks for
game
people,
long.
gives them in-play drinks, and then they just conversate. And this dude has access to a lot of things just from being social.
Real life food.
Yeah.
For in-game money.
Genius, like hot, delicious food. I remember one time I was
Like,
working,
we'll cook it in front of you as
I was
you're
working
sitting
in the
there
tavern, and because I'm in the same squad as Bork, we're boys, and like I'm working in the tavern, and we had a really busy weekend that weekend, so we were out of most things. So I had like a biscuit and some eggs, but it was like one of the last biscuits, and I was still kind of hungry, but I didn't want to like take away from someone like the biscuits because other people wanted them. So I went downstairs to see Bork, and he was like, "Hey man, you hungry?" I was like, "Yeah man, I'm kind of hungry. You want some grilled steak and grilled pineapple?" I was like,
Yeah.
what? I was like, yeah. What? Yeah, I want grilled steak and grilled pineapple. Holy shit, like.
And the
He
amazing,
just does that,
Yeah, I mean, super nice guys, super willing to give you like the shirt off his back, just really good people.
But if you're not squad, he's like, "You want some
Yeah.
grilled pineapple and grilled steak? Yeah, 20 kopecks."
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Like, just-
my favorite thing is like there'll be monsters that like roll through town, and they're like they're rolling the town, and they'll like walk by his tent. He's like, "Steak and pineapple." And the monster will stop and get a bite to eat and leave him alone.
Hey man, yeah.
I mean, yeah, like if you were not sent to town deliberately with the instructions as a guy playing a monster, you are there on the warpath to kill a bunch of people. If it's just like you're a goblin, you're trying to go steal some shit, and you walk up shinies, and he's like, "Do you want an empanada?" Like you're just like,
Probably.
"Yeah, I'll just give you that. I'll get some shinies."
And in real life, you almost definitely want
energy
that.
for in real life, any person at all on the LARP field wants that empanada. They want that. Yeah, absolutely, they want that. You want a burger? You do burgers here? You do burgers? What? Of course you want a burger.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the overall point of what we're
Fucking
getting at here
genius.
is that there's like a lot of different ways to play LARPs that are set up in different types of characters.
Yeah.
And this is one that is strictly a social role play
He
character.
really is. Yeah, it's great. I mean, and
it's
and
not
everyone
something that you
knows
expect
Bork.
in a LARP.
Everyone knows Bork. Everyone likes Bork, and he has a blast. I mean, like
Yeah,
and-
and it's
there's-
something that you just don't expect in especially in combat buffer LARPs because it's not a thing that traditionally exists.
Yeah.
And even if you were to be like that guy who spends most of their time sitting in town, you would still end up with a significant amount of your build into combat skills because that's just how the game was
Yeah.
structured.
yeah.
I mean, even with like Gillis and I, we're high on the universal end. We still have a lot of the combat stuff, and we sit around being lazy quite a bit at a time because it's hot, and we're on the Gulf Coast. But I mean, just see like Bork, Redbeard, and there's a couple others who are primarily, universal or craftsmen in game, and they have a rich and fulfilling game.
Well, but there are
Right.
very few people who are universal heavy that aren't still adventure heavy. I mean, like Redbeard still goes in all those quests and stuff like that. And I'll say
true. He dies a lot, too, because he doesn't have any
we
combat
sit
skills. He's
around
completely
being
universal
lazy
character, and it's
some of the
completely
time.
viable.
I sit around being lazy most of the time. It's really, I mean, like it's really hard to get me to go off and do something. You
Well, it's interesting.
basically have to make me. I've been ordered on half the mods I've gone to.
I mean, especially now that I'm older, like, things are a little bit different. But, a decade plus ago, oh, man, I was going on every mod.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have any mana. That's cool. I can still swing white damage, just whatever. Like, my weapon calls the same amount of damage all the time. I don't care. But it's funny because I distinctly remember whenever I became a leader of a guild and how my play style changed. Because before, I was in, like, other people's groups. So, like, I had people looking out for me and my people. And now all of a sudden, I was the guy that had to look out for everybody else. So I couldn't stay up all game anymore. I had to it was like whenever we went and did things that were super important to like the game objectives and the group objectives and advancing stories and whatnot, I needed to be like
Sharp.
there,
on point.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember one time, this was the day that I knew that like I had gotten into a different LARP level, is where I used to like burn the midnight oil all the time. I used to like do crazy shit. And then I heard this pitched battle outside my bunk at like 11 in the morning or something like that. I roll out of bed and I look because it's happening literally right outside the window. And I see what's going on. I'm like assessing, like listening to the verbals being thrown. I knock on the window and call a hold. And I ask the head of plot and like, hey, do I see such and such NPC? Because I was pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you do. And I was like, cool. 3, 2, 1, lay on. Went right back to bed because I didn't want to have anything to do with that, because I knew that if I went out there, as important as it was to fight this guy and like do this stuff, is that they had a bunch of other people who had made that more their main objective for right then, and I was still doing stuff for my group, and it was more important that I got my full sleep to be able to run us through the mods that we were on than me to go out there and handle one of the big bads of the entire game, especially because I knew that we had multiple encounters with him later on.
How are you fellas doing on health? Anybody need a healing potion?
I think I'm good right now.
Need a healing potion there? Yeah.
Now,
No, I'm good at the moment as
I'll
well.
be right back.
now,
You know what? You can bring me one.
I don't drink often, but when I do, I drink 5 heal potions from Dickmore Enterprises. You guys keep going. I'll be right back.
okay.
I'll take a heal just for
Well, we'll
later.
go ahead and keep going. Now, if you had to sit back and talk to a new player and give them advice, what's the one thing you'd actually like? You want new players to know walking into a LARP.
Oh man! So outside of the stuff that we originally talked about, like the main differences between tabletop and LARPing is that it's a physical thing. You're going to spend at least a whole day, if not, the better part of the full weekend out doing the thing. So you got to be, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Drink water.
Yeah, but I would say the number one thing that you really need to be aware of is that, especially in a game like Mordavia, is that we are, as much as we can within reason, we're trying to emulate situations that evoke real life emotions, real life responses. Like we have like racism in the game, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the real world, it's really hard to deal with racism in a like super active way because it's like super political. There's a lot of laws and whatnot. Like, hey man, if that elf asshole over there keeps on talking shit about us dwarves, we're just gonna murder him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so the thing is that, and especially like in tabletop and whatnot, the consequences of what people do is usually a lot more constrained because it's based on dice rolls and, things like that. But in a properly run, properly managed, properly story-driven LARP, when you make choices and have decisions and like do things, like the world happens to you. Conversely, the world is always happening around you, regardless of what you do. So even if you're that person who wants to just sit in town, do nothing, ever, there's a good chance that one day you will get got because stuff keeps happening.
Yeah.
And even the choice to do nothing is still a choice. And since we live in we're playing in a live, quote unquote, but a dynamic world, is that you can't rely on it. Like, all right, in tabletop, it's me, the people around the table, and the GM. And then any other thing that comes into existence is kind of like a tertiary thing, and we kind of make notes of it. But it's like for Mordavia, like when you meet such and such NPC or whatever, and they start telling you about their like 30 years of war history against the thing that you're going, that's real. Like that's real in that context. And somebody who's already got the lessons from him on how to deal with whatever objective are better prepared than you, the scrub who doesn't know how to deal with it in the game world. And the thing that I really want to stress to people whenever they like go into LARPs, so some LARPs actually kind of be like, hey, you have to submit yourself for PvP, things like that. Be like, hey, I'm cool with people like messing with me. But in games, which most of them don't have that, and ours in particular, where it's a survival game,
Right.
like you and me are the same level, we're the same like basic quote unquote class build, and we're going towards the same spell knowledge for the same augmented stuff. Guess what? I'm gonna murder you 1 or 2 times, so you're at least a half a level below me.
Yeah, for sure.
So that way I can get it first. Like, but also conversely, just like real life, you could be in the wrong place at the wrong time when stuff goes down.
For sure.
And a lot of people, and I totally get it, like you've spent money, you've invested in this concept and like all these things, like you really want to role play this character, and then like 10 minutes in you get murdered. Like, that's kind of shitty, but that's the way it is. It's just like real life. Like there's nothing guaranteeing that you don't go into town tomorrow to go to the grocery store and you don't get hit by a car or get like carjacked or get like hit by a piece of debris falling from space. Like anything can happen. But whenever you're playing in like video games and stuff like that, it's encapsulated.
Sure.
You know, it's safe. Like, oh my God, I'm being ambushed. Hold on, pause.
Well, and at the tabletop,
Like, oh my God,
too,
yeah,
you know?
like that.
It's like it's different. Like, for example, if I'm at the
Like,
tabletop,
let me stop and look up the rule
yeah,
real
like
quick to make
if
sure
I
I
look
can do
across the
this.
table and I'm like, I don't like that motherfucker in game, you just decide, you know, not to like somebody in game, and you're like, and I'm going to dedicate time during this game to killing them. That's really hard to do in a table. It's impossible to do in a tabletop setting without guaranteeing some level of metagaming, because they're going to know they're right there. They're right there while you're plotting shit at the but like at a LARP, it's really fun to like go into play and play yourself, and then decide. The guy I'm playing doesn't like that motherfucker for some reason. I like that motherfucker. I don't like that motherfucker.
Yeah,
you know,
and it grows really
he's
organically.
An asshole, you know, like and you just go with it, you know. And then years later, it could be like
exactly.
2.5 years later.
Oh yeah, you can see rivals
to
like
fuck that person
rivalries
over,
build.
you know? That shit is it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, and it's something that's really unique to LARP too, because it's a physical going after.
Yeah, you
actually getting it done,
and you actually talk to other people outside of their immediate circle of friends, and you form a little alliance against them. Like, you know, like, hey, help me fuck this person over.
Yeah,
Why?
So
politics.
yeah,
It's
a
huge.
really formative experience, because like I had like the Spartans of LARP as far as like my pedigree goes. Like I didn't know it till way later, but I just had some of the best people that you could ever want to like learn how to LARP under. I mean, they were my rides, you know, like
Yeah.
But I remember going to this huge town mod, you know, it's like literally the whole town. It was like 80 people or whatever going down the trail.
Oh shit.
And I'm ready to go, right? Like I'm a young kid. I'm like, oh man, I got all this stuff. I mean, I was like level 8 or 9 or whatever, like hanging out with a bunch of like
Right.
40 people or more. Like I don't even know what levels they were. They were all epic level, especially compared to me. And I'm like, yeah, man, let's get in the fight. Like, and they're just like, nope, just chill out. We're gonna stay right here in the middle of all these people. Like, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? We get to the end of the mod, and I'm like super frustrated with my people, because they're like, man, y'all are badasses. Like, y'all haven't wasted, like, not wasted. Y'all haven't used a single resource on this entire mod. Like, what is going on? Well, we get to the end of the mod, we complete the thing,
I feel where
and we
this is
start going through the loot as a town.
Yeah.
And there was a couple things that this group knew was going to be part of the loot for this thing. It was like a meteor or whatever. It was like prophecy, or like they knew there was going to be 2 specific pieces of loot, plus like there was a bunch of badass shit because the nature of the thing. And it was Amanda Casey. Freaking, she was playing Nyx, the leader of the Shield. And she steps up after they go through the whole loot and is like, we're going to take this thing, and these things. Like the first one to speak. And a couple of other like people were like, what makes you think that blah blah blah? Like, we saw you the whole mod, you didn't expend a single resource. She like just cold as fuck looks him in the eye and is like, you're right, but you used everything, didn't you? And the whole rest of town immediately knew what was up. This group was walking away with the things that they demanded, or they were killing everybody and walking away with everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, wow. Wow.
Yeah, the tomfoolery achievable at LARP is just fucking leaps and bounds
But you
beyond
almost
what you can
never
do at a
consider
tabletop.
that
Yeah.
in a tabletop setting, because usually it's you and your team.
And then you're stuck with that team. Like, you can't fuck over
But
somebody at tabletop and then like, not be right there with them, you know?
versus all the other teams.
And here's the great thing.
It's visceral,
You
man.
do
It's
that.
primal.
You can do that once, and everyone's going to remember that you did that. And
Oh yeah.
I've been in groups,
But they also got to
friends at
remember that they
tabletop.
let it happen.
Well, you can fuck somebody over at a tabletop game that's a friend of yours, and it's like, all right, you killed that character. We have 2 other games going. You fucking murk someone's beloved LARP character that they've played for months. They actually don't like you in real life often after.
Yeah,
It's, you know, I mean, a good player just appreciates
Well,
it.
a lot of
good
it's
player
an
just
attachment
is like,
to the investment.
you got me. But I mean, some people are like, you piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
some
the
people-
attachment to the investment.
Yeah.
And like I said, I probably just got lucky, but like my very first LARP game, it's like I'm just gung ho, like, yeah, let's go kill some monsters. Blah. It's like me and this other noob, like, you know, went on the newbie mod with them, like all this stuff. I thought we were super cool.
you weren't.
No, we were not. We started chasing these goblin, like, you know, low level kobolds or whatever it was, like literally like base level monsters.
Yeah.
That neither one of us could handle on our own, because there was like 3 or 4 of them, but together, like, we wiped them, like, no big deal. And so, like, we were like, man, we would kill them all. I'm like, yeah, this is so awesome. This is like, I'm like, this is 11 o'clock on Saturday morning of my first LARP event ever.
Right.
And I'm super stoked. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to like get all these EPs. I'm going to be able to like level up and reset. Like, whoa. And as I'm sitting there searching a monster, this little bastard comes up and he's like, bloop, 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 in my back with, you know, like 2 or 3 damage, and I die. And he searches me, takes all the money that I got off the goblins that I searched, and just goes back to town. My very first game, I'm like hours into this thing, and I'm being murdered by other players, and like not just any other player, another newbie.
No
like,
shit.
What's happening? And
he knew it was up.
There was this one guy. Actually, you might remember from Dreamscape. His name was CJ. He hung out with Ben.
Who did he play?
Bigger guy. Anyway, the point is that his character happened to be getting done some like secret formal thing or whatever that he was doing,
Right.
And his path back to town happened to take him across where my body was dissipating, and he straight up did me a solid in real life. He was like, "Oh shit, that dude's dying. I don't give a fuck." And then he was like, "Wait a minute, I don't think I'm like out of play." He was like, "I've never seen you before. Like, are you new?" I was like, "Yeah, man, it's my first game." And he's like, "All right." And so his character like picked my body up and brought me to the front of the tavern and dropped me there.
Yeah.
So hopefully some poor soul would be like, "Oh no, this poor bastard is dying. Let's save him."
The dwarf mentor who turned me on to the non-activity
from the beginning,
lifestyle
I was PK'd, man.
was like, I make people carry their lifeless bodies to me, and I life them there.
Yeah.
Yep. Fucking who did CJ play?
He was part of Tempest Ascendant. I don't remember his character's name.
Fair
They were
enough.
the dudes with the lightning bolts on their.
Yeah, I remember the lightning bolts. Yeah, no shit. Yep. Well, so if somebody wants to come play Mordavia with you, where should they go and check it out and what do they look up?
Go ahead and plug LARP Works.
So we have a couple of different Facebook avenues. The Mordavia game is it's at Facebook. It's Mordavia.
Yeah.
The parent company to Mordavia, because it's not Mordavia, it's LARP Works presents Mordavia.
Sure.
Also, we have Facebook, which is LARP Works, and then we have the forums. I forget the full, but it's like if you type in like www.larpworks.com/forum or something like that, the internet's pretty good about sending you exactly to the website and the forum page.
And is Omega Network still going to be a thing, or is that still in the works?
So as far as the current schedule stands, we are planning to have a weekend of some kind of Omega Network playtest in November.
Are there any other tasty, delicious treats you're baking you can share us with that are happening in the future from LARPworks possibly? Or is it right now?
So this one's not really a secret so much. We're just kind of in the final stages of refinement and like getting things together for the marketing and the Kickstarter program and whatnot. But if you go to, it might just be Minotaur's Labyrinth, or it's like LARPworks Minotaur's Labyrinth, but it's called Minotaur's Labyrinth, and it's an in-game card game, kind of a la like Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX,
Right.
But it's also a fully viable in real life game, which we're working on. And then there are a handful of other LARP projects that are kind of on the back burner, because Mordavia is our like kind of our mainstay, kind of like super high illusion, super high immersion, but not like the most epic it could be, because like we have to continue a story, have to switch out a lot.
Right.
You monstered last summer for our blockbuster product, which is Chronicles.
You had a blast.
Which is, a singular moment in time, which is super important to Mordavian history, that players get to, play out the secret details that don't get into history.
Right.
All the stuff that nobody knows.
And it's your chance to do something in the past that affects the present.
Right, exactly. And everybody, and it's a one-shot thing.
The coolest thing about it, really.
That's
is
the greatest concept of it, is that what you do at this game actually affects
a mode of time long ago, and then you go back
but
to
as
game
far as your
retroactively.
personal risk as a character, you're never going to play whatever character you're playing again outside of game. So you have every incentive.
You show up
to
and you get permed like
100%.
right away. You're like, fuck it, I'll just help you guys monster the rest of the game. Like whatever.
But like I said, if you have
everybody.
the things that I do in the Chronicles actually are going to affect the real world game of the Mordavia baseline.
Yeah.
And then we're working on sort of like an old school low immersion game, kind of like the What Do I See, like Tabard LARPs. For people who they can't necessarily afford the higher end like blockbuster games or even the dollars of the Mordavia game.
For you guys don't remember, like, if you see a goblin at Mordavia, it looks like a goblin. If you see a demon or a vampire, they look like a demon or a vampire. When we play Dreamscape,
or most other games,
you would just have a tabard. You would have like a yellow or a red tabard or something like that on there.
Black, brown, green, blue.
If the tabard you had was white and black checkered, that meant that the person was some sort of possible NPC race, like
a player race,
like an elf or a dwarf.
Anything else was a monster.
Yeah. Anything else was like a broad-colored race. And every single time you saw somebody walk out with a tabard, you would say, like, everything would halt. You would say, "What do I see?"
They'd say, "Hold, what do I see?"
And they would say, "You see an 8-foot-tall, yellow-skinned, muscular humanoid." That was an ogre. That's the only one that I remember. That was the descriptor for ogre in Dreamscape.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's all right. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing this at all. I've played every kind of LARP. There are things about the Tabard LARP, What Do I See, that I miss. because we can't represent some of these things in the
There
way
are a
that we
lot
run
of things you really
Mordavia.
just don't have the makeup for. Yeah,
Exactly.
Like, you need a fucking FX team.
Yeah, and
with
that's where I
virtually
came up in,
unlimited resources.
before we
yeah.
even did Mordavia. But the problem comes in is like, hold, I do the description. We're like getting to combat.
Someone else runs
90
up.
seconds.
Yeah.
Hold. What do I see? Whole combat has to stop.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically I was playing Nexus, and this is what really solidified me about my overall general distaste about the way that mechanic worked. Is I was playing Debruza. I'm like this freaking assassin bug man. Like we're at a fire. I'm keeping like an eye out, on the backs of my buddies, like old school primitive campfire style. Like if I see the light in something else's eyes that aren't my buddies, I'm not asking questions. I don't care what it looks like. I'm killing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's like right after I'm like out of basic training and stuff. So I'm in the best shape of my life, playing this fighter character, and I see these things creeping up on my boy across the fire pit, and without a hesitation, I stop my conversation, leap over the fire, jump on the bench, and like launch myself to these two things. Just beat the shit out of the first one. It dies. Start turning to kill the second one, and somebody calls a hold to ask what they see. Yeah. And I was just like, dude, what the hell? Like literally you just stopped me in mid-epic combat to ask the description of a thing that I am eviscerating.
I can't tell you how many times I was playing as a dwarf wizard in Dreamscape, and something started to charge me, and I was backing up, holding my own,
yeah, there's a little
and
bit
I
of
forgot what I was going to do,
seediness.
and then someone else would say, "Hold, what I see," and I was like, "Okay." While I'm like, "Okay, what am I?" Oh, okay, cool. And then I would cast a spell.
Yeah, you could.
Like
you
he
could
overwhelmed
call a
me, and
description
I would
hold.
never have possibly cast a spell. I forgot, like even fucking do that. I'm a new LARPer, and then in the time that this dude's describing what he
moment of
looks like to
clarity.
that person, yeah, exactly. I'm like. I look around, door's right there. Oh, I forgot the door's right, and you're gone. Like 3, 2, 1.
And the worst,
Roadrunner-
the
Roadrunner
worst
dust,
though,
yeah.
is like, let's say I'm roguing on you, right? And I'm like creeping. I'm like, your back's like, inches away. I'm about to waylay you. I'm getting ready to say my verbal.
Someone
This
else.
jacket, hold. What do I see?
Someone else is not
Oh
even
my
like,
god! You see the
because
blah,
you
blah, blah,
would have
blah.
had the motherfucker.
This dude
Yeah.
has no idea I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm about to murk his ass. Guess what? Now in real life, he knows I'm there.
Yep.
And it's almost impossible, especially in a situation.
It's
that's
really
tight,
hard not
for
to
you
fucking
to really continue acting like you had no.
Well,
idea.
all you have to do is say, "I could see your face, so I could recognize that you saw something behind me." When you heard, when you said, "What do I see?"
Yeah, it was
I
me
saw you. I
recognizing
saw
you
you going.
recognized
I saw
something.
you going. It's cheese dick as fuck, but people did it. Also at Dreamscape, I started smoking because of Dreamscape. I feel I feel bad about this, but if somebody was smoking a cigarette, there was a general safety policy where God, this is like a horrible player decision, but like that you couldn't just run up and start attacking them if they're smoking a cigarette for safety. So a lot of people would be like, they hear the door open at War Room, they're like, oh.
The Smokers Guild.
What do I see? Like, I don't give a shit.
You're in play, out of
Literally,
play.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, but we can do stories forever. If y'all got any philosophy or psychology questions about the way LARP or we do,
Well, I think we're running out of time. We're getting close to the end.
Oh, then we'll have to do
Is
another
there any-
episode.
But we will have you back for another episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
I'm having a
as
blast being
always,
out here.
if you want to listen to When Are We Playing, Tyler, where would you go to exactly?
Well, where you would find us at is Spotify or on Anchor FM. And please go give us some support on Anchor FM, or we might have some extra video content on Patreon later on this week.
Yeah, also, if you would like to send us some money, you can designate what it's for. For anyone who has forgotten, we have an ongoing campaign to buy a weave for Mikey.
Yes. Need hair for the Creole.
And also, we're getting relationship coaching for Tyler, including access to several dating apps.
Yeah, I really need it, yeah.
And the rehabilitation is just not working for Gillis. We need to invest in a club just to beat him about the head when he has gone too far.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Yeah, I don't know about all of them and their problems, but anybody who's been listening to these things, especially if you want to like ask questions about LARP or the psychology or philosophy behind running games or things like that, feel free to ask them, because I would love to have a lot more things to answer next time I come back here, which is hopefully soon.
All right.
you
Well, we've
guys.
enjoyed having you.
No, I've enjoyed being here immensely.
All right. Well, I guess it's time to go. I'm Game Master Mikey.
I'm Game Master Gillis.
And I'm Player Tyler.
And holla from Storyteller Chris.
And this is When Are We Playing?